Hello and welcome to this very special interview. Joining me today is Sarbvir Singh, who is the joint group CEO at PB Fintech, which owns and operates PolicyBazaar.com, something that you're all familiar with when it comes to insurance. Recently, Policy Bazaar put out a very exhaustive survey on how India buys insurance. And it gave some very honest and pertinent uh, findings. And to discuss that and what needs to be done to make people more aware of buying insurance. We've said this many times that insurance is something which is very critical to your financial plan. So let's talk to Sarbvir more about the survey. Thank you very much, Sarbvir. It's always a pleasure talking to you. The last time we spoke, we talked at length about premiums, COVID, what the impact had been. A lot of that actually came out in your survey as well. But post that, when you released the survey, one thing that struck me was, and I'll talk first about health insurance and then we'll talk about life insurance, but the fact that the awareness levels are actually fairly high. And, that's full credit to the industry in making people more aware about insurance. The desire to want to actually culminate that awareness into buying health insurance, that seems to be fairly low. Why is that?
So Vivek, always good to talk to you. I think you're right. We found that the awareness levels for health insurance are really high, and I think I'm sure COVID has had a major role to play in that. And of course, I think the industry also went into overdrive in terms of talking about it, and I think the visibility was there. Uh, I think the what we also understood was that the funnel from awareness to then intent, desire, and purchase, if you look at it from that perspective, the funnel breaks down very quickly, because while there is awareness, I think there are still very deep rooted, I think, I would say, some myths, some realities about why buying insurance is not a necessity. See, the fact of the matter is that despite everything, people still view health insurance as a somewhat, I would say, on the border of discretionary necessity rather than just a pure necessity, which I think both you and I would concur on is actually a very clear role. Now, two or three points come up. One point that has come up is that people rely very much on word of mouth or what their friends and family say before they buy insurance. So anything that has happened, as we always say, right? If there is one person for whom, let's say, a claim has not been paid or not been paid in full, that person tends to talk to 10, 15, 20 people, whereas a person for whom the claim has been paid only talks to two or three people. So I think the detractors, unfortunately, are a vocal minority and they speak a lot more. So there's a lack of trust. So there's this belief that I don't need to buy. I mean, even if I buy health insurance, I may not get paid. The second thing that we saw also was that we are still a developing economy. So what is happening is that the household income is still at a point where people are not always able to afford everything. So when coupled with a little lack of trust, then they say, okay, fine, let me not. So during COVID, some people we saw were buying health insurance, but post COVID, they said, oh, okay, I'm fine now. The risk has passed. I can, manage without health cover. So I think that trust plus the fact that they are still living at a income level which is not high enough. I think those two things, if you ask me, are the two big drivers which lead to awareness being there, but not as much purchase.
When I was going through the survey, Sarbvir, and I must congratulate you and your teams. It's a fantastic survey, and as I said, it's very honest. There's no camouflaging of facts out there. But one thing that comes out on health insurance is that while high premiums, higher healthcare costs, and we talked about it last time, why the premiums have gone up. But there was another point, may not be on the top, but it also came out that people find the products very cumbersome. They find it difficult to understand the product, and the point that you made that, and that's why there is so much of if a claim is rejected, then that's why the negative word of mouth, because people say that we don't understand the product. Now, I know that in the past, at least, you have worked closely with insurance companies to develop, different products which are probably simpler and easier. So, what is your view? What is the solution to making the health insurance product a more simpler product for people to buy, actually?
Absolutely, Vivek. I think that's a great question and a great point that you've raised. See, from a customer's perspective, the ideal health insurance product is that I pay a premium, and whenever I need to be hospitalized or as per the conditions of the policy, I should get paid. See, they don't want to be told that, look, this is a pre-existing condition, or this is a slow-growing disease, or this room rent category is not covered, or things like that. So I would say that the industry has come a long way. I think it's led by the regulator, IRDAI. I think the definition of pre-existing diseases, what is allowed, what is not allowed, what is the waiting period. I think a lot of work has been done to try and standardize the health insurance product. Having said that, I think there still remains some work. And honestly, I think there is also a maturity that is required on the part of the customer and the industry. And what I mean by that maturity is that customers also have to understand that certain things are not possible. See, you
Hmm.
can't take health insurance and then in the very next month say that now I have to get a cataract done or a knee replacement done or something like that. Because then that is clearly against the spirit of the product, right? So I think somehow we have to keep evolving, and one of the roles that Policy Bazaar has always played is to try and simplify and standardize these conditions. So largely now you will find that two or three things have changed. Right? One is that we have explained to people that they must buy adequate sum assured. You can't sum insured. You can't buy only 2-3 lakhs. You have to buy five. In fact, now we recommend in metros at least 10 lakhs per person. The second thing which we are trying to do is to have a very honest conversation at the time of purchase in terms of what are the conditions under which your policy will pay. So, what is a slow growing disease? What is a pre existing condition? How should you make sure that you disclose everything? And urging the insurers to make things clearer and simpler. So, for instance, now, even if you have diabetes, we have coverage which starts from day one, because we know that just because you have diabetes doesn't mean that you will go to hospital, right? It's a lifestyle disease which you can manage, which you can control actually. So I think we are playing this role of somebody who is talking to a lot of customers, talking to a lot of insurance companies, and trying to make the product simpler and easier to use. But having said that, I do feel that maturity is required on both sides, because it is not possible for the insurance company to cover everything if you have not disclosed it, etc., etc. So I think that whole thing is evolving, but I do feel that we've come a long way, and I think 2-3 years from now when we talk, I think we'll again have covered a fair amount of ground on this.
You made the point earlier about COVID and how that created greater awareness. But at the same time, does it worry you that despite seeing a pandemic and almost everyone seeing somebody who they knew or were close to, either dying or having an extended period of stay in the hospital, does it worry you that the sense of urgency that you would have wanted to see or should have seen has not really happened? Because again, as I look at the numbers that the survey throws up, and you talked about it, the funnels, high awareness, high drop-off rates, and very limited number of people as a percentage still staying on with the health insurance policy.
Yeah, I think Vivek, you're absolutely right. I guess we all hoped that the a sense of urgency would last for a little longer than it has.
Hmm.
Um, Having said that, I don't want to also just say that it's a consumer issue alone. I think the urgency, unfortunately comes when you experience something firsthand. So many of us, unfortunately did experience things firsthand. But then, we forgot about it and sort of life went on. And see, the point that I feel is that we have to also remember that the customer, I mean, one should always view the customer from a lens of saying that the customer is largely does the right things. So the reason if they are not spending on health insurance after being aware of it, means that either they don't trust the product or they don't have the money. See, and both I think are important, which is why I think the affordability of health insurance is such a big discussion point, which we've been talking about. Now, I think that these are two vectors that we have to keep working on. And finally, I will say, Vivek, that you have to keep reminding customers within Policy Bazaar itself. I was just at a meeting with a large one half of our team almost, and we asked everyone that do you all have your own individual health insurance, right? While luckily, or it was pleasing to see that a vast majority of people did have health insurance, but there were some people even within our company who have not yet bought health insurance. So what it kind of reminded me of was that you have to keep knocking, right? You have to keep explaining that, look, this is something important. These are the reasons why it's important. And, go and do it. Because one of the challenges of insurance is that why should I buy now sometimes becomes a challenge, because people feel, oh, yes, I agree, it's a good thing. But, I can buy it tomorrow. I'll buy it next month, next year, whatever. So yes, I wish things were a little bit ahead than they are. But I do feel very encouraged to see that the awareness is so high, and I think now we have to keep knocking and keep explaining that this is
Mm.
a good thing.
Let's talk about life insurance, Sarbvir, where the picture seems to be pretty similar. Very high awareness around term insurance, around the need for protection. But again, very few people actually seeing the need to want to go and purchase it. Why is that?
I must confess, Vivek, that is baffling to me. I think the fact that only 50, 60 lakh Indians have term insurance is really, I am not able to explain it to you, because I think term insurance rates in India for the sort of environment that we are in are among the lowest in the world. So forget about relative to our own affordability, but lowest in the world. And I think for a 30-year-old today, for less than or around 1,000 rupees a month, you can easily get 1 crore or more coverage. So I think the affordability beyond a point, I think, is not an issue. I think we should have at least 10 times the number of people with term insurance as compared to the number that has. So yes, it's baffling. Of course, there are reasons. I think historically in India, life insurance has been associated with a savings product, right? It has been
Mm.
associated with an investment kind of orientation. So I think a lot of people are still sort of not sure that why should I buy a product for which I will not get anything, right? Because when I'm alive, nothing is going to happen. And if I live beyond the term, I will get no money back. So I think that mindset is something that is still not fully changed.
Mm.
Having said that, again, the fact that so many people are aware about term insurance is a very positive thing. What our survey also showed, that it's no longer a metro phenomenon. So it's not that only in the bigger cities are people aware of term insurance, but even in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, people are aware of term insurance. So again, I am a glass half full type of person, and I feel that this is a really good thing, and I think we will be able to convince more and more people. But yes, it is a baffling thing. I think everyone should have term insurance in India, especially at the rates at which it's available.
One final question, and again, this came out of your survey. Very, very interesting data that came out that people above 48 are actually the ones who are seeing an urgency for buying term insurance. And that is when it gets really costly.
Yeah.
The good thing is, and as you said, you're a glass half full person, so am I. And the good thing is that the number of people born after 1990, according to your survey, there is greater awareness, and things are moving, at least in, not to say that they've moved, but they're moving. There seems to be encouraging numbers for the younger people, but even today, it's a 48-year-old who's actually showing the urgency, and probably by then it's rather late, because you, and I'd like you to reiterate this point. I'm sure you've made this point hundreds of times, that why is it important to buy life insurance early?
So Vivek, absolutely. I think we've discussed this a few times on your show also, that buying both life, term insurance, and health insurance early is extremely important. And we see this in both, in term and in health, that people above 40, I think 48 came out in the survey, but above
Mm.
50, if I were to just generalize, see the importance very clearly. But unfortunately, at that point, both these forms of insurance become very expensive because the probability of your using them becomes much higher. So I think it's something that, again, it's incumbent upon us to continue to educate people that you must buy it at the right time, so that both from an economical perspective you are paying a reasonable premium. In the case of health insurance, it also helps because you build your no claim bonus, so your sum insured becomes much higher. You've served out all your waiting periods, so now if something were to happen, you are fully likely to get your claim, etc. So yes, again, this is something that is very, very important for everyone to understand, that you must buy, and buy early. It becomes much more economical, and the ability for you to use it becomes much higher. So yeah, I mean, I can only reiterate this point, and hope that people will listen, that this is something that they must do, because see, again, it's the same thing, right? You have to buy an umbrella when it's not raining. See, by the
Mm.
time it starts raining, the prices of umbrellas also go up, and they're difficult to find.
Yeah.
So I think that's really the same concept here at work.
But Sarbvir, I know that I'm not asking you for a specific number because this would depend on many factors. But if we were to take all things being normal between, say, a 30-year-old and a 50-year-old, how many times would the premium go up by?
It could easily, between a 30-year-old and a 50-year-old, it can go up by 5 times.
Five times.
Yes, because you see, what happens is that the mortality
Yes,
curve
of
is very
course.
steep, and especially as you start crossing the mid 40s and you get towards 50 and beyond, the curve becomes very, very steep.
Mm.
So actually, the cost changes a lot, and because you have to then pay from, let's say, 50 to 75 or 50 to 80, those 30 years are really expensive. But
Mm.
if you had started at 30, then you would have already, the premium would be level loaded at from 30 onwards, and hence the whole overall cost for you will be much, much less. So I think the cost can be significantly higher, and the process, Vivek, can also be tougher, because a lot more medical work is required when you are older than when you are younger. So again, both cost and process perspective, you should start early.
So, well, you've heard the man in the action, Sarbvir, explaining to all the viewers in such an easy language why it's so important for you to get health insurance and term insurance. Thank you very much, Sarbvir. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I look forward to talking to you not after 3 years, certainly much sooner than that. And I'm sure things will get only better for our citizens, as the industry evolves. And as you said, the regulator is, I think, a very active regulator at this point and trying to do many, many things. So let's hope for the best. Thank you very much, Sarbvir, for joining me today.
Thank you, Vivek. Thanks a lot.